moving your pelvis, and you want to feel like ribs and pelvis want to be sat close to each other. So my ribs and my hips ribs over my hips,
Good morning, everyone. Let's bring this camera up. How is everybody doing? Sorry, it's been a little delay because we've just had a little bit of a busy and a stressful time, and I planned to pick up the camera last week, and then we had some uncontrollable stress that was thrown into the mix. I don't know if I said to you, but we're in the process of moving house at the moment, and that was due to happen next month. And then we've had some news this week that potentially the house that we're in currently, there may be contaminated land, which we're still unsure of where this has come about, what the contamination is. But it's now meaning that we can't sell our house until this is basically sorted. So yeah, quite a lot of stress last week. Lots of having to, speak to solicitors, go to the council, speak to people that deal with contamination of land, and all of those things alongside work. And then also I've launched my group program. So I had lots of ladies that I needed to kind of set up for that. So as you can imagine, stress has been quite high. Also the week of my period. So you can imagine emotions even more heightened due to that. So yeah, hell of a week. But anyway, as I always say, you control what you can control, and you got to let go of what you can't control. And that's very much exactly what essentially I've had to kind of just keep reminding myself of this week. But things have slightly changed. So obviously I've been maintaining since January. That's all gone super, super well. Obviously had that sciatica, but that all seems to be fine. Doing a lot of work towards stability around my hips, making sure that my left and glute are working and firing well, and that seems to be going well. Have a photo shoot at the end of this month. So I have actually dropped into a little mini cut. Not that I really want to lose much, to be honest, because I am pretty happy with where I'm at. But you can imagine, obviously, when you do a photo shoot, you're not really wearing much clothes. So I'm just going to drop into a mini cut. It's only going to be sort of 5 weeks. Nothing extreme. Probably looking to drop maybe a couple of kilos. Something like that max. So I've gone back to obviously tracking my food. I wasn't tracking my food because I wanted to see whether I could do that. And obviously I could confirm that I'm able to do that. I can, maintain my body, feel healthy, feel strong, and not do that anymore. But when it comes to losing body fat, I do think that what you track, it just means that you can definitely set it up, providing that you follow the plan, that you can set it up so that fat loss happens. So I went back to tracking my food for a week just to see roughly where I was sitting. I was probably eating about sort of 2,400 calories, something like that, and that was maintaining me. So I've dropped my food to 1,800 macro wise, if you want to know, but obviously everybody's macros is different, right? It's about 160 protein, 190 carb, and about 40 fat. So that's currently the new macros. I'm on 1, 2, 4 meals a day, and then if I train in the morning, I'll have a little something before I train. So I've worked that out. Obviously, if I train later on, then I can just have my fourth meal. And then I will have one day per week where I take my food up to maintenance. And that's the setup that I've done for myself. And my weight dropped. My weight dropped about 1 kilo, and then obviously I've come on my period, so my weight's gone back up. But I know that's because of my period and not because of anything else. So yeah, that's the plan of action. Nothing extreme. I do follow a meal plan because I just find it's just easier. It's less to think about. All of the foods was the foods that I was eating before. So I've got me oats, which I'm just having now. Me eggs on toast. I've got me yogurt. I've got my fruit. And my little bits and bobs that go into there. And then I've got my dinner, which most of the time is either beef or chicken. Potatoes or rice. I mix up my vegetables, so sometimes it's veg, sometimes it's salad, sometimes it's stir fry, and then I'm having a little bit of cheese on that. So I tend to just eat the same meals. I'm quite happy doing that, but equally, if I did want to have something slightly different, then the macros for that is like 50 carb, 10 fat, 35 protein. So I could very easily macro track if I wanted to, but I'm quite happy to just eat similar foods and just rotate my vegetables, rotate my carbohydrates to make the meal a little bit different. So that is the plan for the next 5 weeks. So I'll obviously take you with me during my mini cut. I was up early this morning training with a client. We wanted to go through her upper body day. She's currently in like a recomp phase at the moment. So she's dropping body fat, but she's definitely building muscle in it because her shape is changing. She's getting stronger. She's learning lots about training and enjoying the process. So the plan for her is to continue to drop body fat and then actually, whilst learning how to train to build, because it is skill, and then she can move into a structured phase where the goal isn't to be losing body fat, but it's to just be building muscle. Because we know when it comes to building muscle, you're always going to build muscle more quickly when you're on more food. So that should always be the goal. If somebody is looking to build, then yes, we need to get ourselves leaner first, but a roadmap where a building phase is very much factored into your journey is something that you should strive for, because you just will make progress quicker. And I often think that if you didn't, then why would people do those phases? Like, why would people do those structured phases when they're on a really good amount of food? They're not striving to lose body fat, for the scale weight to come down. Nobody would do that. Everybody would just stay super lean and build loads of muscle. So there's obviously a reason why that works more than the other. And it's like everything in life. There's a compromise to everything, isn't there? There's a compromise that we have to be willing to take when we lose body fat. And that's the compromise when you're building muscle, is that you're not necessarily getting leaner. And you might feel a little bit softer in that phase. But then the return is that you build that muscle and you can come back down and show off the new muscle that you've built. So yeah, been and trained upper today. Really good session. I normally do my upper session on a Saturday, but I did her upper session today, so I won't need to do my upper session on Saturday. I've just moved it around. I think training 4 times a week, I've got the flexibility to be able to do that. So been and done that. I've came straight home and cracked on with some check-ins, and I'm now just going to have my breakfast, and then I just take you through the day. You can see my meals. They're not overly exciting, but I do enjoy them, so that's the main thing. What else have I got on today? So yeah, finished the rest of the check-ins. I've got a new client to set up, some content to do, some planning to do, 3 client calls, and then I've got a mentoring call this afternoon with Vicky, and that will probably take me up to about 4 or 5 o'clock, I expect. So yeah, hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. I'm going to enjoy this, and then I'll catch you after me work block. Just having my lunch. Doesn't look particularly great, does it? A bit of salad and some eggs on toast, and then we're going to head out for our lunchtime walk, aren't we, Wim? Gonna go out and do our lunchtime walk, aren't we? That'd be nice. Don't look at it with all my layers on, but it is actually a really nice day today. But I'm definitely somebody that just likes to be, I would rather be hot than cold. You know, some people would rather be cold than hot. I'm definitely somebody that would rather be hot. What are you? Would you rather be hot or would you rather be too cold? Anyway, just had me lunch. Take Winnie out now. I do always try to have a little walk. Well, I have to have a walk at lunchtime because Winnie needs a walk, and she's just annoying if she has, like, some dogs, they have a walk in the morning and a walk in the evening or whatever, but that don't work for Winnie. She's just annoying. She gets to about, if I don't walk her, she'd get to about 2-3 o'clock and she'd just be annoying. She'd just be like jumping all over me, sitting by me crying, and then she goes and tries to find things. She's just, yeah. Whereas if she has a little lunchtime walk, she'll go back now and she'll have a little afternoon nap, which I always think, God, they have such a great life, don't they? Eat the meals, get loads of love, go on nice walks, and not have to do anything else. What a life. So we're going to get our steps in now. I've got a letter that I need to post. I'm just going to go and do that. So far on this cut, I mean, I know I am only literally like a week in. I don't really feel like I'm on a cut, to be honest. I haven't really experienced any hunger, which sometimes you will at the end of the day. When you're in a calorie deficit, you sometimes will, but this is where, rather than, I think sometimes we think, oh, we're going to diet, so let's just eat as little as possible. Sometimes it's trying to eat as much as possible in as little as possible of the calories that you've got. Does that make sense? So, like, all of my meals have got a good amount of protein, lots of nutrients, lots of fibre. It's also like high volume food, so like that was a full plate, right, of food. And I definitely think that will 100% keep you fuller for longer when you're dieting. So yeah, that is a little tactical tip. Think about volume, think about fibre. Plants with every meal, that's always a really good one. So veg, salad or fruit, because you're going to have your fibre, you're going to have your nutrients. But yeah, so far I've not really felt like I'm on a diet as such. Weekends are always the test, aren't they, with regards to, everybody struggles a little bit when they're dieting on the weekends, but I think I just think that it's not forever. Its meals aren't basically going anywhere, and I would rather get this goal done quicker and go back to the phase when I am on a decent amount of food. You know, like I said to you earlier, like 2,400 calories, I can easily have a meal off plan every single weekend, and that would be fine. So I think sometimes just getting, you know, structuring your fat loss phase, like I know how many weeks I'm doing it, so I know it's not forever, and I'd rather get it done. Plus I've got a goal of obviously wanting to look and feel confident for this photo shoot, so it is going to require me sticking to the plan even on the weekend. So yeah, I'm going to go now, post this, enjoy a little bit of sun, and then I'll catch you this afternoon. So I think, like, this is why we track, is really, really important. So I think with regards to the energy, like I said, it could be, you know, the foods over the weekend triggering the Crohn's, not being able to absorb the nutrients quite as well, and then couple that with where you are in your cycle. But, you know, we keep an eye obviously on everything, and this is where, like, you know, understanding the foods that you eat massively will support your body. Do you know what I mean? Having Crohn's is not your choice, but there's definitely things that we can choose to do that's ultimately going to support that. God, it's got a little bit chilly now. God, I look a bit bloody tired. I actually feel tired. Just going to get our last little bit of steps in. Just about wrapped up with work. I normally have like a cut-off point of about 8 o'clock with like clients and stuff, because obviously like part of my job is like, you know, the check-ins and the programming and the form clips, but it's also the support, you know, offering support to clients. And I often find that the ones that are really successful are ultimately the ones that I communicate a lot with, you know, and they can let me know when things are good, but they can also let me know when things are bad, because that's often when we actually need the most support, is navigating those moments, so that they don't, you know, allow us to kind of spiral into that headspace of ultimately thinking that, you know, I can't do this. So yeah, I normally allocate that in the evenings. So I was just doing that, obviously sending some voice notes to clients, but everybody is doing well, working towards their goals, challenging themselves. Everybody on the group programme has all been really chatty and really engaging. I set them 3 non-negotiables this week that they need to give themselves and commit to, because the more times that you can kind of like set yourself some targets and stick with them, it kind of just reaffirms to you that you keep promises to yourself. So they were all sharing their non-negotiables, and to be fair, a lot of it is just the basics, and we spoke about that yesterday. Like, you gotta nail the basics, because once you do that, everything else is a damn sight easier to do. So yeah, good day today. It's funny because I said earlier I'm not very hungry, and then this afternoon I was actually bloody starving. But something that I do, and I do this even when I'm not dieting, is, and I've probably said this to you before, but I have rough meal timings on my meals, and I think it just makes a big difference, and especially like dieting. And I was hungry this afternoon, and I was like, well, that's not your meal time, so you just need to crack on, keep busy, and wait till the next meal. So yeah, I do find meal timings is helpful. Also, just if you're eating at all these random points all of the time, your hunger and all of that is actually going to be all over the place. So regularity is good. But yeah, I spoke too soon because I was like, yeah, I'm in absolutely fine, and then I've had a hungry day today. But I do sometimes find when I train early in the morning, I do notice that I'm a little bit hungrier. So maybe it was that. But we are all good. So yeah, just going to go walk around the block, get our last steps in. I don't have a set target as such. But what I will do is just make sure that I stay within like a rough target. So normally I'm about between maybe like 13 and 14, because I literally just do the same thing every day. So that's why I don't necessarily have a target, because obviously that's enough steps. Obviously when you're in a fat loss phase, steps can be a useful tool. You know, if you're only doing like 5,000 steps, you're not going to move, you know, you're not going to expend very much. So you don't obviously have to go out and do 20,000 every day, because that is almost the other way. But they can just be a useful tool, and then just keeping them consistent. Because, you know, if you do say 4,000 steps one day, and one day you do 12,000 steps, that could be the difference of burning like 500 calories. So just having a consistency, I always give clients like a range rather than be like, you've got to hit 8,000 steps. I just give them a range, 8 to 10 or 10 to 12 or something like that. And it's always built around somebody's lifestyle. Like, somebody may find that they just, have quite an active job. I often find the clients that have dogs tend to do more steps. And I was chatting to a lady actually that's joined the programme, and she was saying to me, I really struggle with my steps. I do a desk job, and I was like, well, I technically do a desk job. And I was like, you just need to think about it a little bit more. Like, start your day with a few steps, get ahead. When you eat your lunch at lunchtime, add a 15-minute walk to that. And sometimes the little and often approach anyway works better. It doesn't feel as tedious to go out and walk for 15 minutes rather than not moving all day and then thinking, shit, I've got to go and walk for an hour. Plus, I find for me, I'm so much more alert, more focused, definitely more productive, definitely less stressed from moving throughout my day in comparison to just sitting staring at my screen for hours on end. So yeah, I do encourage the little and often approach anyway. So I'm gonna walk around the block. I've already prepped my dinner. I've got stir-fry veg, beef mince and potatoes for tea. Niall's got chicken, rice and wraps. He's currently at the gym, so that'll be his post-workout meal. It's funny, we don't tend to eat the same meals. We eat similar foods, but I don't really like wraps, to be honest. So we actually eat different meals, but nevertheless, we sit down and eat our dinner together. So yeah, he'll be back from the gym. We've got our steps done, and then I can catch you before bed. Well, that was an epic fail. It's actually a couple of days later now, guys, but basically, when we got back, we had phone calls and emails from the solicitor. Like I said earlier, we've had a bit of a house stress, and actually the whole thing is actually fallen through. So we no longer have the house, and it was potentially our dream house, potentially our forever home, as we like to say, like to wish. But that is no more. So as you can imagine, obviously coming home and having to deal with all of that, it was quite stressful, and just been, a couple of stressful days. But like I always say to clients, like, we've got to ride the wave, right? We're not always going to have great weeks. We're not always going to have good news. Like, we are going to have shit times and shit hitting the fan, and that's definitely been one of them. But we've kept things going. So obviously in the fat loss phase, and I'm not gonna throw the towel in. And one of the things that I always think about with myself is that, like, learning to navigate these things and still show up for yourself when you are going through difficult times is really, really important. And I actually think that it builds your mental resilience. So yeah, still are in the deficit. Few days obviously later now, so weight is dropping. Still on the same amount of food, not going to necessarily change that. Obviously tracking my food, sticking to the meal plan. The only thing that I have obviously slightly different is, sometimes I have a different evening meal. So I've got kind of like a calorie target and a sort of a protein macro target for my dinner. but most of the time it stays the same. So yeah, shit news, but we are surviving. We've got about sort of 3 weeks now till the photo shoot prep, and for me, because my starting point for this was already quite lean, like I said to you before, like I was already in a place where I was happy with my body composition. I'd been maintaining that since January, so it wasn't like when I've dropped into this fat loss phase, I have a lot to lose, if that makes sense. So I think realistically I probably only want to lose like maybe a couple. It's not even about the weight, to be honest. It's more going to be about sort of when I get to a point where I'm like, yeah, do you know what, I'm quite happy with this look. But it probably is going to be about a couple of kilos, which I think within 2 weeks is very doable. You know, if you stick to your calorie deficit, you stick to your steps, you stick to your training, and you've worked it out to be, like obviously I worked it out to be a moderate deficit, then you're going to achieve that. If we don't stick to the plan, then obviously things aren't going to happen, right? But everything is moving along smoothly. The house is no longer, like I said, so for now we're just going to stay here, do some house improvements. Like, we do really like where we live, and we were only literally moving 2 minutes up the road. We just to a slightly bigger house. So we're just going to stay here, do the house up, and potentially get married next year, because we have been engaged for 2.5 years now. But the plan was like, get the house, get settled in the house, get married. And I don't know if you've ever bought a house or dealt with houses, but it's stressful, right? So I'm like, I just need a break. Let's just stay here, do the house up, enjoy the summer, get married next year, and look at houses are following. I always think you can have a plan, but you can always change the plan, can't you? So yeah, I'll leave the YouTube here. Obviously this one was about sort of, you know, things that we can do within our fat loss phase. And I think the main things is like working out the time frame, being willing to, you know, stick to that fat loss phase. Remember, fat loss isn't forever, right? But if we try and do fat loss, but then also do things that is maintenance and you know, going the other way, then it's just going to prolong it. And I've always been somebody that, you know, my kind of statement around it anyway is that females, you know, want to be spending a really good amount of time not dieting. So when you are in your structured fat loss phases, it's a case of sticking to the plan, embracing that phase, knowing that, you know, your hard work and your effort and your compromises, there's a return. And the return is that you're going to achieve the thing that you set yourself for why you wanted to do it. So obviously for me, getting a bit leaner for the photo shoot was something that I wanted to do. But obviously once the photo shoot's done, then obviously I will be coming out of the fat loss phase and potentially going into a little growth phase, but being a little bit more selective with where I grow. Yes, a few months ago, I'd said that I didn't want to, you know, I was happy with my body composition. But who doesn't actually ever want bigger glutes, right? So potentially moving into a bit of a growth phase where we just focus on selective areas. AKA the glutes. So yeah, I'm going to leave this one here. Sorry that this has not been a day in the life of food, but shit happens. Had a stressful time, and you probably didn't want me crying on the YouTube. So we're picking it back up. Fat loss phase is still on, and I will catch you in the next one. I expect the next one I'll probably do something training related, obviously update you with how it's going, but let's do some training. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.